What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Van Chats by the Out of Collective. I'm sitting here with Tyler Pearce, the Vegan Cyclist, known as the Vegan Cyclist, but I know him as Tyler Pearce. Anyways, man, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing good, but I'd rather be in a van drinking coffee.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. And so I don't know if you know how this whole podcast started, but I was going to try the whole vlog life. I was going to try to outdo you via YouTube. And luckily for you, COVID hit. And so when COVID hit, I would have been an asshole to just go out and travel in my van and drink coffee. And I was like, fuck, how am I going to promote sponsors and whatever else? And I started this podcast. Yeah. And got cool guys like you on and whatever else. But yeah, when I see you next, I'm going to make you an Aeropress straight out of the van. And if I have the top tube van by then, we'll pull you a shot of some espresso out of the van. So that'll be cool.
How big of a coffee guy are you?
On a scale like 1 to 10, like 10 being like maximum coffee guy, like a douchebag that brings the scale, weighs it out, and that kind of guy.
Yeah, like you steep it for 45.7 seconds. You weigh the water. It's 22% of the total volume, like all of that.
I used to be that douchey. I'm not that douchey anymore. But I actually had a scale with a timer where I'd weigh out the coffee. I ground the coffee to a certain grind setting, and then I would steep it for a certain amount of time, and then I would expend it with a certain amount of water in grams. Yes.
That's crazy. I'm a huge coffee fan. Black coffee, just across the board. I've actually don't think I've ever drank any other way. And so, but to me, I must not have an advanced palate, because your bottom of the barrel pod coffee versus the most expensive bean, ground, steeped, all of that. The difference is like between 0 and 100. Like you might have a 5-point difference.
Okay, we could talk about this all day, but I feel like I would disagree with you a little bit there, between a pod and like if I were to make you an Aeropress, 100%. I'd actually love to do a video just on that, where I sit you down, I make 2 cups of coffee. You don't see me make the cups of coffee, and I tell you to take a sip, and then you tell me the difference and which one's better.
I would be able to tell you the difference. Okay, and I know that the French press, the Aeropress, anything is going to be better. What I'm saying is the difference
isn't big enough.
How much better it is marginal. And so like my wife got me this really nice espresso machine. And I love it. It's amazing. But to be honest, I want to have something in my hand and put it in my face that's 0 calories all day long. And so I would rather have actually like lower quality, lower caffeinated, and like pot coffee, so I can just keep drinking it, versus this quadruple espresso where my 100%. Eyes are popping out of my head by noon.
100%. And like, and that's why I said I used to be that way. And see, then I got this thing called, what's it called? A job. And, and I started doing because you see, cyclists do this, I think, more out of the aspect is they have nothing fucking better to do. And it just adds math. And so it looks cool. And so like you walk into your roommate's thing when you go do your stage race, or you're at your track race, whatever, and they whip out the scale, and in between track sessions, they're weighing out coffee and doing whatever. They have nothing else to do. Now I have emails and meetings and this and that and this and that. And so, yeah, I go to the Keurig just like any other normal human, but I will be honest, I do have a scale. I do have an Aeropress. I do have a very, very nice espresso machine, and I'm getting a nicer one, where it literally weighs out the shot and times the shot every time. And so, yes, I am in the mix of that. But now that
that needs to be the treat, right? And this is this is where I got into some trouble. I got into some trouble where I was making only espressos all day long. And so then before my espresso machine, even though I really like coffee, I might only drink 2 or 3 cups in a day of like pot coffee or French press coffee. And it wasn't, so the amount of caffeine wasn't that bad. And so I never really felt like addicted to it. I just enjoyed it. But then once I started doing espressos, and it's basically like you're having like a dessert. And then now that's my level of everyday coffee. Now I'm like six espressos in by noon, and now my caffeine tolerance is so high. And so like I have to do now, if I go to a shitty cup of coffee, I'm like 2 shitty cups of coffee just to bring me to baseline. You know what I mean? Like that's just
no.
I need to like reset the receptors on
and
that.
that's another thing is like I just don't have the time anymore, to literally sit down and do that much measuring of my coffee and taste testing of my coffee, because you have to dial in espresso machines, like grind settings and all, for you to get actually quality shots, etc. But anyways, now that we've dived into like our first 20 minutes of just fucking talking about coffee and how we take it.
I know, but dude, how coffee connects every human across time.
Yeah, it's
right.
Unreal.
There's let's say sex. Okay, sex is an experience that you could talk with Cleopatra, right? Or you could talk with Aristotle, and you could communicate and understand sex as an experience. Coffee is one of those rare things that
like
seems
everybody
to have,
experiences it.
Yeah, that everyone enjoys. Everyone almost has it as a part of their personality. It's like it's.
And
it's
if they
really
don't have coffee, they have some other filler. Like, and that
totally
meets the need. That meets the need. You know what I mean? Like, and so in all reality, it all does kind of come together.
Well, and so I'll end the coffee chat on this part and loop it into YouTube a bit, which is that I've done a Train Like a Pro challenge 3 years. The first year I did it on Instagram story because I had never daily vlogged before then, and so I actually daily vlogged on Instagram story, and then insane. I had such a good response to that. I was like, well, how much harder is it? Because it would take me about 2 to 3 hours to build the story every night. And so then I was like, well, shit, I could just be doing a full on YouTube video. And so then the next year I did it. And I didn't plan this out, but every morning I would open up the shot with my coffee maker running. And so when you take your life and you condense 30 days down to maybe an hour, right, across all of it, it looks like I'm drinking coffee nonstop, right? Like that's my entire life. And it's like, well, it's not the case, you know what I mean? But and so then I got a lot of hate. I was so surprised, like people saying I am a drug addict, that I can't function without coffee, and which never was a thing. I just like coffee. But it was so strange to see this certain division of people who are like, that is cocaine. You're a heroin addict by drinking coffee. And it was like really surprising to me that I
also think that people that comment on YouTube videos are like, it's one or the other. Like, you're going to get somebody that's super fucking awesome and has like been watching you since you had 10 subscribers. And then you get this other guy that literally, I think there's bots in the world on YouTube and people that literally, I don't know if they're hired or what, but I think they're sitting behind their computers and it's like, I'm going to ruin this fucking dude's day real quick. Hey man, you shot that video so shitty. That sucks. This sucks. Here's a thumbs down, eat shit and die. And you're just like, fuck, I got like 5. And for a guy like me, I got like 5 comments on my video. Okay. Yeah, and that's one of the 4. It's like, fuck.
Well, so what's like, why? Right. I mean, you were entertained,
100%.
right? Like you 100%. Consumed the content that is completely free.
Yes.
And this was your choice.
Yes.
I didn't come on your TV and force you to watch this, right? Like you clicked through. And so then it's so weird because I have seen videos that make me extremely angry and I disagree with everything about it. I hate it. Never in a million years would I ever think about going into the comment section and saying anything. I just go, okay, that sucked. That was stupid. And then I move on to my day, dude. It's
mental, man. Like I literally just don't understand it. And I get it with this podcast even too. It's like, I don't even know what episode this is, probably like 98 or something at this point. And, you know, it's funny because sometimes the same people that comment negative things are still listening to my episodes. And so, thank you. I appreciate it because the download counts are high and
Yeah,
things are
yeah,
great
good.
right now, and sponsors are
Totally.
great. But anyways,
Awesome.
dude, so where do you get started? Because like I don't understand you. So I tried to actually go back, and I'm actually glad that we waited this long to do this. So like I tried to get you on in the beginning, and I was like, oh yeah, because like I was killing it with guests. I had some of the best content creators, athletes, and everybody alike. And I was like, oh, I just need the Vegan Cyclist to like make this whole circle connect. But then I started watching, because I never actually watched a lot of your content. And then I started watching more of your content. And it's actually interesting knowing where you came from, like with the motorcycle stuff, and then into cycling, and then into content creation. And then you still kind of have a job, but you also probably are more pro than some pros even. Like, I don't get it, man. Like, who
Dude,
are
I don't
you?
get it either. Okay, so I don't get
Who
it.
are you?
I don't know. I don't know who I am, man. It's been such a weird journey, because so when people are successful, people always want to try to look at like you had a roadmap, you had a plan, you meant to do this. And then I think some people trick themselves into retroactively thinking they made key decisions to find their success. Bro, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing ever. Okay.
Yes.
I will never know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yes.
And so like nothing is pre-thought out. I have
Yeah.
no idea what tomorrow is going to hold. I literally just try to at every decision when I'm faced with a decision, I try to give it as little thought as possible and then just make a decision, because there's a paralysis by choice that can
Yeah.
happen. And so, there was this scientific study about jam. And so they went to the grocery store and they put out 3 jams: strawberry, mango, raspberry. And more people actually purchased jam when there was 3 choices than when they had 20. So, but you would think, oh, well, I want to give them blueberry and marmalade and all this. But the fact there was too many choices actually dropped these people's ability to make a decision. And
Yeah.
so I will find myself in that, where if I think about something too much, then it's just like this feedback loop in your head. And you're like, then when you finally make that decision, dude, you second guess the shit out of it, because you're like,
Yeah.
well, was this the right? So I try to turn my brain off and just do things. And so my favorite analogy in my head that I like to encompass my life is that, say you just end up on a body of land and you have no idea where you are, north, south, west, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And your goal is to get to the ocean. If you just walk in any direction and just stay consistent on that direction, you will eventually hit the ocean. It might not be the ocean you want. You might have been on the East Coast and then you started walking west. And it could have been like, bro, if you just had walked east, you were like 10 miles from the ocean.
Yeah.
But you didn't know. And so you ended up taking this shitty ass route. But let's imagine you start in a position and then you never take a step. But you Google and you're like, where are the oceans and how do I get there? And then you get the route, and then you've spent years and years and years, and now you know exactly how to get to the ocean, but you haven't taken a fucking single step. And you are just as far away from the ocean as any other idiot who didn't do any research, right? So just start walking and keep that direction, keep your heading as straight as possible. And you're going to veer left and right occasionally as life hits you. But if you just walk in relatively that one direction you set off on, which to me, that direction is time independence, right? So like a lot of people want financial independence, like they want to have as much money as possible. I don't really care about money. I want to have time. I would love to work 10 minutes a day, right? That's what I want to do. And so how do I accomplish that? Because I am so very lazy, and I just need to be able to do the least amount of work for the most bang for the buck.
See, when you say shit like that, it makes me feel even more lazy because like I feel like I'm actively like I'm fucking grinding, I'm fucking hustling, and I'm going about my life. But dude, I've tried the YouTube thing. I've tried creating videos, man, and it is fucking hard. So like, and here's the thing, I could pump out content daily, but it would be shit. Like it would be shit. And dude, I feel like you pump out content quite often and it's good.
So yeah, I could do more. But to me, this sounds douchey. I side myself with it as an artist and not a content creator.
I don't think that's douchey, but I think I'm going to argue and say content creators are artists, but we'll have that conversation another day.
Well, you could be a content creator and just put out like fake prank videos.
I get you.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And that's not really art. And so to me, I want to make a story. I want to tell a story that regardless if you know who I am, and regardless if you watch any other video ever of mine, you will have enjoyed that one experience. Yeah. And so I put a lot of time and effort into that. And what's so difficult, and so right now I'm in this like probably the longest that I've gone without making a video. I didn't make anything in January, and now it's fucking almost the end of February, and I haven't posted a video. I mean, I have so much in the works. Like I know I'm going to get back into that grind. But the thing is that I'm sort of like an OG YouTuber because I don't force myself to make content when I don't feel like it. Yeah. And so when you force yourself to like, okay, I don't want to like compare myself to Van Gogh, but if Van Gogh had a manager, he'd be like, bro, you got to crack this out by Sunday. Come on. Starry Night, go, bro. Yeah. Like, well, you know what I mean? Like that now, what is it? Right. It's just, the creative process is like a mist. You know, the fog rolls in and you know you're in the fog, but you can't hold it, right? So you can't grasp it. And so that creative fog rolls in and then I try to create. And when it goes away, I try not to force it. And I will say though, this is the first year where I no longer have a day job. And that is so scary to me. So
you don't have a day job now. Yeah, I thought because I was going to bring that up. I was like, yeah, let's talk about what you do for work because I don't think people know that you actually have a job.
Yeah, I mean, let's dive into that. But I have always had a day job. I've always had a level of financial security in which I didn't have to dry hump sponsors. Like I've never have to do some ad read or like I got real.
Speaking of that, that's a perfect time for this. No, I'm just fucking with
you. You know, so like I got real spoiled with choosing and running the YouTube channel as I saw fit without any sort of financial piece to it. And that becomes like, if you try to go out and be a content, you know, producer, an influencer, and that is your 100% your only job, dude, it's so difficult because you have to sell yourself. And then whatever you think is cool, you now have to throw a stupid ad on top of it. And I just personally, I hate that. And so I've always been able to like, just turn stuff down and be like, well, I don't really care. I don't care if this video makes money or not, because I have a day job. So my career path has been an absolute roller coaster. You know, from the day I turned 18, I actually got a job selling cars when I was 17. I couldn't start until I turned 18. I dropped out of high school for this job. And when people say car salesman, they think of like a shitty little lot. This was like a high end, like bougie car dealership, guaranteed pay. Like it was really, really nice. Like it wasn't gross. And just day one, I'm making like $5,000 a month. And as an 18-year-old. And I'm just like, well, shit, this is so easy. You know, life is so easy. And so then I was doing well.
And you didn't have to sell anything? Like there wasn't commission? Like usually with car salesmen, especially nowadays, like so there you might go 6 months without making a check.
So the contract was 6 months guaranteed pay of $2,500 twice a month. So you would take home $5,000 a month. Well, gross.
Yeah.
You could sell dick, but after 6 months, right, then they could fire you. But then you could make commission on top of that, but your commission, you had to commish $5,000 before you got anything extra.
Got you.
Right. So you could, one month I did $9,000. So I'm like 18 years old and I just cashed, I just made $9,000. Like, so I sold, I think like 12 cars that month. I was just like on a high one. Actually at that dealership was the number one salesman in America. He's like some 47-year-old, just whatever dude. Guy sold 31 cars a month, every month. I'm not even like every single month. This guy sold a car a day for years. It was unbelievable.
That's insane.
Insane. Like it was unbelievable. I don't understand. Like maybe he was buying cars for the people. It was so crazy. Anyways,
because I'm like wondering like if that all goes back to the straight path analogy. It's like he's just been doing it for so long. His return customer rate is like insane. If you're 18 selling 12 cars, it's like, oh, he knows 15 people now, right?
Dude, yeah. So anyway, so I was doing that, and then I just thought life was so easy that when someone rolled up and was like, "Hey, do you want to drive Ferraris?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I want to drive Ferraris." And they were like, "Cool, come and be a part of our team." And so then I just like quit on the spot and then went and joined a pyramid scheme. But I didn't know what a pyramid scheme was. Like I just was like, "Oh, I'm trying to drive Ferraris." And so then I was I like get to this shitty ass office and they're like, "Okay, you got to sell phone service to your grandma." And I was like, no,
savage. So see, I thought you were I thought you were joining a race team, and I'm just like, dude, this dude has a crazy fucking life. And come to find out, it's just like Herbalife or whatever the fuck. It's like, hey man, you want to drive Ferraris? Maybe eventually when you have 15 other people under you.
I know, totally. Yeah, it was shitty. And so then, but this was during the time of the housing market was going crazy, and so then. My mom was a mortgage broker. She was making really good money. She helped me get into a house. And so, because at that time it was stated income, you could just say, I make all the money in the world. And they would go, here's a mansion. And so then, so I got a house, and then I was, I pulled some money out of that, and I was like, well, what am I going to do with this money? Cause it was like 50 grand. And at being 18, that's all of the money that exists in the world. I'm like, I can buy anything. So I decided to open a motorcycle shop and sell like clothing, parts, accessories, the whole deal. Again, no fucking idea what I'm doing. And so I just make a decision like, okay, how do I get a lease? Like this is the thing I'm focusing on right now. And I go and I sign a lease. I don't read the contract. I write my name on it. I signed the dumbest lease possible, which ended up putting me out of business a few years later because of some of this fine print that they could up the rent basically whenever they wanted. And I signed a lease for $2,200 a month. By year 3, I was paying $7,500 a month for rent. And so, but I didn't know, you know what I mean? And I signed a 3-year deal, and it was like, but it doesn't matter. Well, how do I move forward? I could say, well, I don't like this contract, and I could never get a lease, and I could never open a business. Okay, where I'm not anywhere better. So anyways, signed this dumb lease, did this thing. Actually ended up meeting this girl when I was 18, right before I opened the business, right after, she had graduated high school, and this hot little blonde, and I was not into her at all, but she lived in the mountains and she needed a place to stay in the city. So then I was like, well, if you work for me, you can kind of stay at my house. And then, so we kind of got together as like boyfriend, girlfriend, but it was like, I wasn't really that into her. I was just using this hot blonde as free labor. She ended up becoming my wife. So, and like
I'm just like wondering, I'm like, dude, does his wife listen to any of the content he puts out? He's just a savage, just putting this all out there. But come to find out, it is your wife.
She became my wife. Like we became best friends working this business together.
Awesome.
Because what happens is people, when they get into a relationship, it's usually this like chemical dump. And so it's all this, honeymoon phase and Romeo and Juliet, like, you can't, we live together, we work together 24/7. So we had to become compatible. And that ended up being probably the best thing that came out of that business, was my ability to learn how to be best friends with my future soulmate. So
that's cool. That's awesome.
It was really, really cool. Anyways, lost that business, terrible times ahead. And then I became a debt counselor because I had nothing to do. Everyone was in debt.
Yeah.
Then that actually became like,
were you in debt when you were a debt counselor? And you don't have to tell me how.
Yeah, no, I had $1 million. I had $1 million in debt.
Oh my God. I've always wondered that, like the guy that's the financial peace officer, because like my finances suck. I'm a professional cyclist. And yeah, like I listen to some of these guys' interviews and I'm just like, fuck, man, there's no way this guy made it through. But no,
well, here's the thing is that when I'm talking to these people, I don't have sympathy. I have empathy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know what you feel like. And when they're like, oh, I've got $20,000 of debt on a credit card. It's like, yeah, well, I owe 700 grand on an extended lease. I get you. You know what I mean? Like, so, anyways, so then I did the debt counseling thing. There was like a little loophole that became, you got commission off the debt you closed. And then for like, I don't know, 4 months, I was making an unbelievable amount of money, because so many people were in debt. It was so easy. Now I help people. I went to school. I actually did this like online school. I got certified. I learned everything about debt. I had debt calculators. I could tell people really like what was happening with their interest rates and how their purchasing, habits were.
Yeah.
I genuinely loved talking about finances and working it out with these people and helping them. I helped this guy get out $110,000 worth of debt, and he gave me this skateboard. So like he made skateboards, and so then I helped him, and he gave me this skateboard, and I've kept it. I just fucking love it. So anyways, okay, so then I am bawling. I'm like, again, life is so goddamn easy. And so then I have, but when I lost my business, I didn't trust the banks because they took all my money. And so then I just had a safe full of cash, just stacks of cash. And so then I was a little bit like into the 2012 conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
The Mayan calendar. Okay. Like, and so I'm with my wife at dinner.
Everybody's out to get you.
Yeah, well, I'm with her at dinner, and I go, what if the world ends in 2012? Wouldn't it be cool for us to know what being a parent is like? And so then that sort of got the conversation going about having a kid. And it's like, well, and we've got hella money and there's no end in sight. So I look up how to have a boy. There's 3 different ways you can, like, scientifically, like how the male sperm swim.
Are you fast, fucking with me right now?
No.
Okay.
So there's 3 determinations on if you're gonna have a boy or a girl. So there's boy sperm, there's a female sperm. Boy sperm swim fast, die young. Female sperm swim slow, live longer. So based on that, this is getting wild.
This is insane.
Look. So then there's penetration level, and then acidic level of the vagina. So that the more acidic the vagina is, then that will kill off the first ones that hit. So then you're left with a lot more female sperm. And then if you don't penetrate hard enough, because the closer you can get your boys to the egg, the more likely it's going to be to be a boy. Now,
don't you have like 3 boys?
I have a boy and a girl.
Okay.
So before anyone's like, this sexist piece of shit, look, I did not want a girl. And I know that I've gotten trashed over this by meme accounts. They can suck it. Here's the thing. I didn't want a girl. I had parties in high school where the most religious, well brought up girls were naked, stripping on my pool table. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't want to deal with that shit.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
then I also don't know what it's like to be a girl. So I'm already afraid of being a parent. I have no stability in my family. My mom
Yeah.
was married like 5 times. My grandma was married like 9 times. Like there is, I don't see a white picket fence family. So I'm like
I get you. I
afraid,
get
I'm
you.
afraid to be a father. My wife is completely opposite. Everything has worked out for her. Her family's great. Cool. So how can I make sure that I'm the best father possible? Well, a boy seems like I know how to raise a boy.
Like you're like, I can't fuck this up. Like there's no way I can
So,
fuck this up.
right. So we go, we try, one shot kill, bam, get my boy. Like
Okay.
just one try. It was awesome. And so as soon as she gets the pregnancy test, I lose my ability to make income. So then I'm like, well, fuck. So then I take what money I have. My mom, who's like, when she lost everything, she dipped out of California. I maybe see my mom once a year,
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes not, right? But I talk with her all the time. Like my mom and I have a really good relationship.
That's sick.
And so I can trust her. She's like really business savvy. So then I went to her and I was like, hey, I have some cash. Let's start a business together. And so then we started this online gambling site, and it did really well. And then we started an online gambling forum, and so then I was selling ads to competitors in that space, and it was like a Facebook for this online gambling. Anyways, it was a success. It was good.
That's insane.
And then
How did you come up with that idea though? Were you just like, is that the do in you? It's like, yeah, let's start a business, gamble, yes, mom, forum, ads, boom, done.
It more just like you're tumbling down. You're like tumbling down a mountain, and by the time you get done, you have like thorns in you, and you pick out the thorn, and like you
That's
didn't
it.
mean to get this thorn stuck in you. It just happened. And so
That's
it kind of
insane,
like
dude.
that, just sort of like
Yeah.
random things that happen to go, well, what are we going to do as a business? And then you kick out some ideas, and then someone pitches one idea, and that leads into another door. And it was just the most viable way to make money with the little amount of investment we had.
Okay.
Right. So because I've been around companies that have gotten millions of dollars in investment and they're gone in a year.
Yeah.
And so I'm not taking investment. It's my own personal money. And so, and I have a kid on the way. So like, I have to make this work. It seemed like the best possible way. We made some good money, and then the government came through, and this was like when football gambling and stuff like football
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pots were sort of in this gray area. And so what they did is they said, they kind of made this, it wasn't a law that passed, but it was like they said something, they made some sort of statement, and all credit card processors stopped processing for online gambling. So
Wow.
we could still do business, but you would have to physically mail me a check. No one's going to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
no
And so
chance.
overnight, we could no longer process credit cards. So that business was no longer viable.
Yeah.
So basically, overnight, we're out, gone. And then I did like, then I got in with some investment stuff, and I really hated it. I hated the meetings with investors, and it was just like really gross. It was like play games, like slot machines and jumping games. Like what it was just like a community where you would play games and win prizes and build your avatar. So I had to learn how to like code video games in like a week. It's so wild, dude. It's so wild. It was such a huge part of my life in the moment, but I never think about it ever.
Yeah.
Right. It's so weird. It feels like that's not even me, but I know
Yeah.
it
Well,
happened.
it's because at this point, dude, we've talked about, you know, motorcycles, Ferraris, pyramid schemes, penetration, and then
Acidic
online
vaginas.
acidic vaginas, online gambling with your mom, and we haven't even gotten to the bike. Like, like
Yeah.
how do you find two fucking wheels in this whole process?
We'll get there. So yeah. So then it was just kind of all over the place. And then so we had done a few businesses, and what seemed to be the guys that making the money is the ones building the websites. We
Yeah.
would pay some guy to build a website, and he didn't have to run it, he didn't have to manage it. It seemed like, oh, he made all the money. Grass is always greener on the other side. So we're like, okay, well, let's build websites. So then I learned how to do CSS code and Photoshop basically in a weekend. And this is not like I am a savant. I don't, if you could learn it from 0 to 10, I learn a 1. I learned just enough to fuck around. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not
you
like
could open the application, throw some photos in, and get some shit done. But if like anything big and complicated came by, it'd have been like, we need to talk to someone.
Yeah. So then I started building websites. I started going out and knocking on doors, and it was terrible, dude. It was so not good. And so then parallel to this existence, my son, is born, and he's awesome, and I love him to death. And like, I didn't know what it was going to be like to be a father. But I am naturally gifted to be a father. I'm like, for whatever reason, naturally, I want to be a family man. That is just like a genetic thing. I enjoy every aspect of the family. So, and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to be a selfish piece of shit and not like understand, be a terrible dad. Like my dad sucks. And so I'm like, well, maybe I'll be like him. And so then, but I wasn't. And I loved it. I loved everything about it. And so then I started wanting to build a brand for my son, because the kid started riding motos at 2. And it was like, what the hell, dude? And like, he was so good and so talented. And so then I started like making little videos, and I created an Instagram for him. And I was thinking, well, I can set him up to never have to work a day in his life. Like, what if when he's 18, I hand him a social media account with 1 million followers and sponsors, and you know what I mean? Like, I'll dial him in. So then it was kind of fun to learn content creation through my son. And then that bonded us together. Like, we were always hanging out together. It was a lot of fun. And so then as the web development thing started to kind of take off a little bit, and I've said this story a bunch. And again, dude, I'm totally open with my life, and I tell the bad and the good and the whole bit, like, because everyone has things that they deal with in their life, but they hide them. And so I had just done this video in December where I was talking about how it was hard for me to bond with my son, and motos was that thing. Anyways, I'm pushing my son probably too hard on content. He's doing things that are insane, and I know like he could be something special. And so one time we went out to a track, and I pushed him way too hard, and he started crying, and it was like I was like angry that he wasn't riding, and he wanted to play on a playground, and he's 4. And I'm just like in the car driving home. And it was sort of this moment where I kind of like had to regroup on myself. And I was like, okay, this isn't the point. This isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. I've taken it too far. I've lost sight of this. And so then personally, I was like, I'm not going to ask him to ride. He has to ask me. And he did not ask me to ride for like 4 years. Wow. And so while I was just like hands off on him, letting him sort of figure out, what he wanted to do. And I still had this like void to make content. Like I needed to do something, because the web business was, you pitch, you make a site, you work like maybe 6 weeks really hard. And then you have like 2-3 weeks where you're trying to now find new clients, but you have all this downtime. Yeah. So then I started working on my own personal brand. And of course, I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know anything about anything.
What year is this at this time?
2014, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Something around there. 2014, 15.
Yeah.
So, in Ozarks, that little girl, I don't know if you ever watch Ozarks, but
I have.
the chick that he helps, she says in one of them, I don't know fuck about shit. And it's like,
Yeah.
yes, that is me, dude. That is totally me. So then I just I just create a profile. And I was doing jujitsu. Okay, so for the bike thing, I know this is kind of all over the place. For the bike, I had always ridden bikes with my grandma, rode motos with my grandma. Like all my childhood memories that involved happiness involved two wheels,
That's cool.
bicycles, BMX, moto, whatever. It was always happy times with my grandma around bikes. So I had been doing jujitsu. Uh, I got really good at that. I was competing at Worlds, and so then I tried to lose some weight for that. So I got this bike and I was riding around. I really fell in love with pedaling on the road, and so then I kind of just fell head over heels into cycling because moto is where my heart is. Like moto is, I love it. I haven't missed a supercross race since 2004. Like I'm a huge fan of moto, but when I have no money, I can't ride. And
Yeah.
with a pedal bike, you don't need like, okay, jujitsu, I have to have another person. I have to go to a place. Football, you have to have many people, right? Moto, you have to fill up, you have to go to a place. There's all these like barriers.
Yeah.
Cycling, you can just ride out your door and have an amazing adventure. You can go
Yeah.
in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. It doesn't matter. You can go fast, you can go slow. It's so fucking cool. And
Yeah.
so then I really fell in love with this. So I started watching a bunch of YouTube stuff like how to shift. You know what I mean? Like, what's the most efficient way to shift up and down? Like, I'm just trying to consume anything about the sport. Found Duran Rider, like everyone at that time did.
Yeah.
And,
You started eating
really,
bananas.
I did a couple days where I ate like 30 bananas, and just he made it look like you could be that it was a performance enhancement to be vegan.
Yeah.
And so there was sort of a light switch for me. I mean, I could talk for an hour about my health transition from fast food 3 times a day to being vegan, but I'll just say like I wanted to ride better. And
Yeah.
so then I went down that path. And so then when I started to make my channel, Duran Rider was a big part of my life. Vegan was a big part of my life, and cycling was a big part of my life. And so at the time, I was like, well, everyone's searching for Duran Rider, and this guy's making good money. Like he's crushing it on YouTube, but no one knows how to spell Duran Rider. Like, what the fuck is a Duran? And
Yeah.
so then, which is a fruit that tastes like shit, by the way. And so then, I go into Google and I look at Google Trends. You can see like what people are searching for. And so when I typed in cycling, the Vegan Cyclist was a top search term because they were looking for him and they didn't know how to
Yeah.
say his name. So I was like, well, is the Vegan Cyclist taken? Nope, it's available. Okay, boom. I'm going to get me some SEO advantage. But at this time, like, I think this is going to be 100 subscribers would be like the ceiling. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's no way this is going to go anywhere. I don't know what I'm doing. So then I made many terrible, terrible videos, terrible videos.
Yeah.
But I learned how to make content while I had a job. So I didn't care. It got 30 views. Who cares? This isn't my job. Right. And so, that just over time started to escalate and more of my time started getting devoted to the YouTube channel. I remember the first time I got recognized at a race and it was just like blew my mind. Right. And then there was all these things that were like, this snowball just started really rolling. Now, 1 year, 100 subscribers, 2 years, 1,000 subscribers, 3 years, 10,000 subscribers. Literally like an exponential curve, almost to a T.
Wow.
And so then I really then had to balance the day job, which became, a competing thing because now I'm having to train more. I'm having to spend more time on content. Now I'm having to travel for content. Like in the first like 2 years, 3 years, I just did it in my living room or my backyard. Like there was no but now like I have to go make new content, other content, something different. So I got to travel, and it just
Yeah,
became
and you
crazy.
you have brands backing it and all kinds of stuff.
And so, but it's always been good because I had that day job security. And one of the things we did for the web development was when we started doing off-road sites, like e-commerce for Jeeps and trucks and stuff. The data that gets fed into the site is extremely complicated and a nightmare. And so we built an in-house software program or platform that we could clean data from brands, put it into this, and then export it into websites. So we could clean, say, VP Racing Fuels data once, and now we can use their data to populate other brands or populate parts on other companies' sites. And so then that was just an internal in-house thing. And then we actually started opening it up to brands paying, because then they were like, well, we want to be a part of this. Like, we want to get on other websites. And then that data distribution service quickly became something that had a lot of teeth, and had the business model was really good because you would do X work, but you would get paid every month because the manufacturers paid monthly. It was a subscription, free for dealers. So then you would do the same work every month, but you would make more money every month. And so then the websites actually became less of a priority, and this data thing became really significant. And so then we realized that at a certain point we were gonna sell this thing, and what value we were gonna sell it at. And there was a competing company that I would say we did better than, and they ended up selling for like $140 million. Yeah. And so then in my mind, I'm like, well, if they sold for 140 million, like that's so always in the back of my mind, I thought, when we sell this, game over. And we could maybe and there's NDAs and stuff like that, but like right now I don't have a day job. So I'll just say that, but I haven't been paid. So there's this weird transition where I no longer work. And that just happened this year. So like January 1, 2022, I no longer have day job responsibilities, but I have all the same costs, and there has not been a transfer of funds from past day job. Okay. Yeah. So and that won't happen for a while. It's gonna happen, but now I'm like, well, what the fuck do I do? And I always held on to that day job as like, oh, I'm a normal guy. I'm not a pro cyclist. Yeah. And so I always had an excuse. But now I wake up and I drink way too much coffee, and if I'm not riding, what else am I doing? And so
you're pretty much just talking to brands. Yeah. Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah. So in the last month and a half, I have been trying to set up the year. Yeah. I'm trying to set up my 2022 year and future years, because I'm so terrified, right? Yeah. I'm so terrified that the level of expenditure, and I don't want to dive too much into the business, but I don't make dick off YouTube, right? The YouTube ad revenue, I mean,
is that because you cuss, or is it, copyrights?
No, I just don't post enough. You need to post almost daily, for you to make any real significant money. Okay. And so, with the costs that I have to put out. So when I go to Unbound, that is a very expensive trip. We just did Valley of the Sun stage race. Yeah. If you tally all the costs, I mean, we are thousands of dollars just personally into that trip. And so I'm going to make a video about it, and I might make $200 ad revenue. Right. I mean, it's just not it's
net net ad revenue, or are you just not getting enough views to make more money than that?
Yeah, I guess it's not enough views. I don't know. I mean, my ad revenue every month right now, it's kind of neat because I have so many videos getting ad revenue that like I don't have to post anything, and it like I'll get like a $2,000 check, $3,000 check. Like that's usually where it hovers.
Yeah.
If I really hustle. So in December, because I made so many videos, I did like close to 10 grand.
Yeah. Wow.
Now I know that that sounds like amazing, but there is so much money that goes behind creating the content. And
And
so
when
like,
you're denying all the brands,
well, yeah, I'm not like, when's the last
yeah,
time you saw me do an ad read? Like I
it's a
don't.
good point.
And
Yeah.
so I have to have brands that just pay me to just do my thing. And that's very hard to come by. That's very hard to get that. And so like with the impossible route, at a certain point, I was $45,000 in the hole. I spent personally 45 grand to make that content. And so like no one ever talks about that kind of stuff, you know. No one ever talks about what the sponsors really pay or whatever, but it's as
Uh,
at least for me, dude, it's not like you're just balling out and having a great time. Now,
yeah.
guys like Peter Stetina, I don't want to talk shit, but I'm just as a contrast, this
Yeah.
guy makes 3 times, 4 times a year that I do.
Yeah.
How many YouTube videos he editing? Dude, he just goes out and he has a good time. He just rides his bike. Like he's not a content creator. And so like he can focus on the race. He can focus on what he's doing. And he's built a brand that isn't dependent on like laborious content creation. I
It
just
is.
raced with,
It is laborious in another way.
oh, for sure. I mean, he's putting in
Yeah.
training, like he's traveling, like there's a lot that he's doing. But
Yeah.
I'm saying like in the race that I just did with him, I'm trying to change batteries out of my GoPro while I'm flying down this bumpy road. You know what I mean? Like, and he's just focusing on the race. And I think like sometimes I feel so much pressure to create content, and then I look at him and I'm like, well, I don't think he has that kind of pressure. He has pressure to do well, and like I don't have to win
Yeah.
a race, right? If he goes to a race and he gets sixth, that's maybe
There's a
his.
question mark, dude. Like, here's the
Yeah,
thing. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm kind of in between you both. I would like to think. I think you're like the pinnacle of cycling content in some regard, and then I like to think that Pete Stentna is the gravel bike racer guru in some regard, right? Like you got Colin Strickland, you got Dylan Johnson. I can go down the list, right? On either side. And even Dylan Johnson, like Dylan Johnson's probably the best of the in between the both, right? But
he is probably
anyways,
the strongest. Dylan's probably the strongest content creator, on the platform. Like that,
exactly.
yeah.
Like because like something's got to give eventually. And I was starting to notice that. Like I was doing content and I was going to these like Olympic level events and I was like, fuck, something's got to give. Like I can't film right now. Like I got to focus on X, Y, and Z and I got to do this, and that. And then I've actually been at races where I've been like, man, that guy is here, fully check covered, bike, whatever else. And all he has to do is post a TikTok or post this and post that. And then boom, it's okay. It's boom, it's done. And then you look at Pete Stetina the same way. It's like, this guy just retires from World Tour and still gets taken care of, like no questions asked. But I do think there's hard work on both ends of the spectrum.
No, totally, 100%.
Yeah.
And like I said, he has pressure that if he even gets second, there's questions. So like he
Yeah.
has to be winning, like he has to be doing well, and that takes a ton of personal investment. But and like I said earlier, the grass is always greener on the other side. But
Exactly.
now that like I think like I'm riding the best I've ever been riding, because I have cut out some day job stress. Like
Okay.
that is allowing me to be more productive on the bike because my head isn't so cluttered.
Yeah.
And even though, like I haven't posted in a while on YouTube, and that is concerning to me because that is my main thing. Like where am I? Why am I not? But the thing is like I feel really good on the bike, and I sort of then look at like guys that don't have to create this content and think like, I wonder what I would be if that's all I had to focus on. But either way, I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
You know, it's scary to not have that safety net of a day job. I will also say though that like Stetna, how scary is it that your physical performance is everything? Like
Yeah.
that is the mound you're standing on. And when I got hurt I jumped, I don't know if you know, but I jumped
No, I
5
know.
Harleys through some flames, and then I did 10 backflips, and then I ended up breaking my leg.
In a parking lot, right?
I jumped over the parking lot.
Yeah. Jumped over the parking lot,
yeah.
which we'll put a link in the description below if you guys ever want to see the video of him jumping.
It's crazy.
it's crazy. It's insane.
So when I hurt myself, I was like, well, I can't ride. But I have so much content that I can create. Right. And so like I felt sort of this like safety net of I don't have to ride to create content, and I could honestly just become a filmmaker and not ride at all. There's this brand Dirt Shark in the moto industry, and they just go around and they film cool events and like they make badass edits. They're on the other camp, like they're just filming other people. And I was like, well, I could do that. I have that skill set. And so
but then you're no longer the talent though, and then it's not your brand, right?
Sure. But I'm just saying, like, I don't have to rely solely on my results and my performance. I've had to, because that wasn't ever a strength of mine. I had to figure out a way to offer up something else. And that's storytelling, right? So I had to learn how to storytell. I had to learn how to convey emotion through video.
Well, that's the thing. I'm about to say what probably every sponsor has said to you. You're relatable. Like, dude, I'm not like, even myself, like Pan American champion, like 8-time national champion, like on the track. Like I have tons of success, but I also used to weigh 300 pounds, but there's not many people that can say that. And the same with Pete Stetna. Pete Stetna is like, the stuff that he's done on a bicycle, not many people have done. You kind of almost humanize the content. It's actually kind of difficult for guys like us who, we're like, hey, this is what we want to do. And it's like, well, unless you're like a crazy man that's blowing everything out of the water, you're not relatable.
Right. But so even then, so Lachlan Morton, I really like this guy.
He's awesome.
His thereabouts
impossible route needs to happen if it's not already in the works.
Well, they see it as a competition to thereabouts. So I was actually on their podcast and they never aired it because I talked about the impossible route, and so that's kind of a bummer.
That's kind of lame.
Yeah, but anyways, doesn't matter. They changed how I looked at bikes. So when they did thereabouts 1 and they rode across Australia in t-shirts, but like having fun and racing, but it was like chill. I was like, dude, I'm so into this. This looks fun. You're not in a speed suit, you're not in high vis, you're stopping for beer, you're going off road, you're drafted. Like it was just the vibe on thereabouts 1 changed everything about cycling. And I wanted the best
thereabouts to date.
100%. So then I will say though that Gus or Lachlan just did some big mountain bike thing. It was like an FTK, and he did it in 7 out, whatever, doesn't matter. Comes across a finish line and he goes, cool. And it's like, that's the pinnacle, dude. You just did this thing that no one else has ever done ever. And the finish is just cool. Right. Yeah. There was no emotion. I felt no connection because he's so good that he doesn't convey any of that. Right. Yeah. And so like he could have done it in 1 hour. He could have rode to the moon and back. And how are you going to convey how difficult that was? And so with me, one of the things that people like, the biggest criticism on the impossible route stuff is like, this guy fucking complains too much. He's, just enjoy it, dude. You got a free trip.
You get to ride your bike all day.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, but what is the video going to do? Like I can go out and get some cool drone shots and say it was fun, it was sandy, I had a good time. Does that convey any emotion? Like, how do you feel when you're out riding?
Yeah.
And that's a shared experience. That's a shared experience between Lachlan, Stetna, anyone, you, our grandmas. If you ride, your legs will hurt, your lungs will burn, you will wish you were home.
Yes.
No matter where
If you,
you
especially if
are.
you ride long enough, like
Yeah,
I think that's the thing.
but it's relative to anyone, right? So
Yeah.
you could have someone who's just started riding and they're 1 mile in and they're like, suffering, or you have someone who's 200 miles and they're suffering, same level of suffering. And so then that is how we connect with each other on
Yeah.
that shared experience. And so then that's my goal, is to try to explain to you what's going through my head, because we all have these thoughts. We always have these dark thoughts. Like when I was doing my off the couch Ironman and I'm running this stupid marathon, cars were buzzing by me, and literally in my head, and I'm like, I'm not suicidal, but in my head I was just thinking, I kind of hope a car just hits me,
That makes
because then
sense.
I have an excuse now to stop
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
Like if this car just plows me and I go flipping through the air, like, dude, I'm so down to lay in a
Hopefully
hospital
I
bed
don't
right now.
die, but at least I'll be laying down.
Yeah, I don't want to die,
Yeah.
but like then there's a reason to stop running.
Yeah.
And so, you can say whatever you want about me. I don't quit. When I set my mind to something, um, and I've decided to do something, I know I will finish it. And so I did that with Mauna Kea in Hawaii, Death Valley, Virginia, Montana, Colorado, race across the West. I did 930-mile race. Like, you just, everything I've ever done, there's moments where my brain is just in this feedback loop of telling me to please stop. And I know how to quiet my mind down enough to get through it.
Yeah.
And that gives me the ability to do above average things as an average person, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have like any crazy physical performance, but right now my mental strength is actually becoming like a huge asset to me. And
Yeah, because
so
there was one of them. There was one of those impossible routes where it pretty much starts with you almost not starting.
Montana, dude, so
Yeah.
fucking lame. I was going into that, like I was going into that so fit and so excited, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I think I burnt out. I'm not really sure what happened, because uh Whoop can really show you a lot about how you're dealing with illness.
Yeah.
And I've had COVID. I've looked at my Whoop data for COVID, is like, it's just there's no doubt about it. And when we got to Montana, I just felt weird. Not in such a it's like impossible to explain, but like I'm just in this dark mist, and my personality and soul is like this little pinlight hole, and I'm trying to get back to it. So
Mhm.
deep. Okay. So
Yeah.
maybe it's depression, maybe it's burnout. I don't know what it was, but I had no energy. Like I literally could not get out of bed. And that's not like me. And so I slept for 2 days once we got to Montana. I could not get out of bed. I couldn't do anything. And then it's like, well, what do I do, dude? I can't not start this. And then I'm thinking, as an editor, how do I make this video? How do I put this video on my channel? We're already, vegan excuses is a big fucking thing for me. And everyone's like kind of almost rooting for me to fail in a way, or at least that's how my mind is. And
Yeah.
so, I'm like, I can't not be in this video. And so, dude, we are driving to the start, and I am just in my mind trying to flip that switch. And it's so hard, dude. It's so hard. I'm like, it's 5 days. What's 5 days? 5 days of your entire life. Suck it up. Just get it done.
In a
And
very beautiful area, by the way. Montana's amazing.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Uh, but I didn't care. I
Yeah,
hated it.
yeah,
I hated
for
everything.
sure.
So like I get there, we land, and it's like, okay, just make it through day one. And again, it wasn't the flu, but I had no energy. Like
Yeah,
I could not even think. And somehow I ended up doing like 140 miles with Jeremiah and Eddie Anderson, like on my deathbed. And then
legit
every
dudes,
day,
by the way. Like, I mean, you probably know who Eddie Anderson is, but Jeremiah Bishop, I think, is a he's an older fella, but he's a closet freak still to this
oh
day.
no,
Like,
dude,
he's just a
he's
mad
inhuman.
dog. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a mad dog.
amazing bike skills.
Yeah,
Anyways, every day I got a little better. And actually on day 5, like the last day, I was riding the best I had all trip. But it was really difficult. It's really difficult to like shut my mind off and try to just, because I knew for whatever reason it was more of a mental illness than a physical illness. Like my
yeah,
physical form could do that. And that's what's so crazy is the connection between your brain and your body is so underrated. And that's why like some of the old school Tour de France guys died at the hilltop because they were on so many drugs that their brain was like, I'm just going to peg my heart at 210 beats per minute for an hour. You know what I mean? And then if your
yeah,
heart explodes, like you can do that. Like your body is capable of so much more than you think is possible, but your mind will step in at different levels, right? And say, hey man, like we should probably stop. And that's good. Okay. But there's certain levels you can ignore. And I would say if you want to experience that right away, hold your breath, right? In
yeah,
30 seconds, you're going to start getting alarms going off that you're going to die. You're not gonna. You can, I think pretty much anyone at any point can hold their breath up to about 5 minutes before you pass out.
yeah,
Okay. But at 30 seconds, you think you're going to die. At a minute, your body's going to start spasming, right? At
yeah,
2 minutes, like there's just you almost do not have the mental strength to overcome those signals. And so then guys who hold their breath, they learn how to go through those stages. And okay, here's this wave. I understand what this feels like. I understand my body's telling me something, but I know what's over the top of this. So I'm just going to ride over this wave and now
yeah, yeah.
I'm good. And like that just takes a lot of suffering, unfortunately, and a lot of pushing past your limits. But like these impossible routes have really shown me, dude, it doesn't matter if your mind is in the right place, you can accomplish anything. And I know that's so motivational poster in a dentist office bullshit, but I'm telling you, that has been my experience so far, is that I'm just an average guy, and going out and doing these above average things, I didn't train harder than anyone. I'm not naturally gifted in it than anyone. I invested in myself on a lot of these. I took tons of risk. But what got me through it is just being able to overcome the mental demons. And anyone can do that.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's like, and see, it's kind of crazy how this has kind of all come full circle. Like I asked, and I remember telling you at the beginning of this podcast, I was like, look, I don't ask questions. We're just going to sit here and we're going to chat and it's going to be awesome. But I asked you one question. I said, who is Tyler Pearce? And
we went on this tangent.
And that's how we got to it. And that's how we got to it. And I think that's amazing, man. And so kind of diving, more on the outside of who Tyler Pearce is, but Tyler Pearce has created, Ride Bikes Bro, which to me was really cool because I brought Travis on the podcast because I just like what he was doing with the content. I liked how he was going about things. And then I also looked at the roster and I was like, fuck, these are some cool dudes. Like you guys have put together a really cool roster. But it's funny because we ended up jumping on this podcast because somebody else saw the roster and I can't find the original video. I've tried to ask the guy. He said he's deleted it. But there's a video that's circulating the Instagram space, which I'll also put a link down in the description below. But supposedly Chris Schroeder over at Diamond Bikes Racing or whatever the fuck, has done a video where he's reviewing your roster and calls a guy not a winner. And supposedly it's taken out of context. That's what he said. But have you seen this full video, or do you know anything about this, or what's this deal?
This is going to sound douchey, but I don't really worry about what other people are doing.
I don't think that sounds douchey. I think that's actually the best way to answer that.
I haven't watched it. I don't plan on watching it. It's just not going to do anything for me. And like the little bit that I saw when Evan did that mashup.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
That was super cool.
I thought it was fucking awesome.
I have no beef with that guy whatsoever. Like him going through our team's roster, I feel like is amazing. Like that's really cool. I'm stoked that he even that's even a thing he wanted to do. But so team wise, in 2019, I had a spirulina company that was sponsoring me, and they had a lot of money. And I was like, I want some of your money. And so I pitched them to do a team, because like at the time I didn't really have any other way to collect money from them. And so I pitched them this team, and they said, we want to be the only sponsor. We want the best team in America. What's that going to cost? And I was like 200 grand. And they were like, okay, cool. We're in for 20. And I was like, well, fuck, dude, that's a lot lower than, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I can't do that. You know what I mean? But so then we worked it out, and they were going to come on for 20 grand. And so then I got
which is massive for
a first team, like, you know, whatever, that seems cool. I got a handful of other sponsors, went out, got a solid roster, and they paid $4 grand, and that was it. And so then
they bailed.
Yeah. So they went out of business. Like, I don't know, March. and our team, you know, so we have this new team that, like, anyways, and so it really, and I did a whole series on this. There was, I think, 4 episodes of the making of a team. And I go through our budget and the whole thing. And everyone on the team got like mad at me because I don't know why. No one came out of pocket. I was the only one that lost my ass. But they were like,
usually how that works. Yeah.
I was saying some things about the team chemistry on the videos. I was being open and honest, and people are like, dude, you're throwing your team under the bus. And it's like, no one cares about money, and just race your bikes. And it's like, but dude, I care about this. Yeah. I want to see, you know, Legion is awesome. I don't really care about them winning. Tell me the business model, dude. How are you getting Ian Garrison on your team? That's what I'm interested in, right? Where's your payroll coming from? What the fuck are you doing business-wise to make this work? That's what I'm interested in. So I was thinking, well, I think more people would be interested in the behind the scenes of how a team works. So anyways, 2019, team totally implodes, even though we won best all-around rider. We won best all-around team for NorCal in the P1s. We won the Cal Cup.
That's pretty impressive.
Cat won? We won. Yeah. P1, wow. 2. Our team won everything. So like, great. Okay. But then it dissolved, right? No one stayed on the team. Everyone went elsewhere. I didn't know where I was going to get money from. And so then I said, okay, well, I need to control the title sponsor. Like, that's a lesson learned. SP2 being the title sponsor, even if it's like Adidas or Nike, if they pull out, your whole team brand collapses. And so like Legion isn't a sponsor. That's their team name. So I was like, well, that's kind of what I want to do. So I was like, you know, Ride Bikes is a clothing company that I have, and I know I can control that. And even if I stop selling clothing, Ride Bikes is a cool name. So that's where we're going to go. And so then we do that. I'm like the title sponsor. I get a handful of other sponsors. I start working a new roster. We go out, we win like the first 4 races we do. And then COVID hit, and I didn't know what to do. Right. So like, how do you make content? Like I struggled through COVID on a personal level. Like, I don't want to, like, I know a lot of people did, but I'm just saying, like, how to navigate the content creation space.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
and I don't, I'm not a PR type guy, like politically correct. Like, dude, in high school, like me and my boys, like we would have been canceled every 10 minutes if it was today, you know? So
Yeah, yeah.
like, it's just is what it is. Like, I don't understand this new world where words change their meaning based on who you're talking to.
Mhm.
Uh,
I
aren't
learned that in
words just
communication class, dude. It's not about what you say, it's about how the person perceives it. Communication. First day I walked in, bro. Miss
that's
Groves.
that that's a great that's
Yeah.
a great way to put it, because yeah,
Yeah.
people can perceive something completely out of, anyways. So then that was kind of shitty. And so then come 2021, we so again, I gave a lot of support to some guys. This guy Miles Hubbard, who was like our rock star, he ended up going to Mike Spikes. I picked up a couple other guys, Kenny and Eric. We did team camp. We started, building again. It had an okay year for 2021, like nothing too crazy. But then, a lot of those guys left, to go other places, do their other things. And so then Travis, I had brought him on in 2021 to help me with a few things. And look, I'm not a fan of the sport of cycling.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the racing. I don't really watch it. I don't follow it. I'm a moto guy. I love riding bikes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm not saying I don't like cycling. I'm just not a fan of the sport of cycling.
Mhm.
But Travis is. And so he was like all these guys are available. This guy, like he knows all of their pedigrees. I'm like, I don't even know their names. Like, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And so
it's
then
it's like you either know like Ian Garrison, Justin Williams, or like guys that are going to cost money, like a lot of money, and you don't know the guys that are right here that could be right here, but just nobody's giving them the opportunity to get right here. You know what I mean?
totally. And so then he was like, hey, what do you think about making like a serious team, like a domestic elite team? And I was like, well, sure, I guess if you want to like get the roster together. But I don't even know how to go to ask these guys. I don't even know, what do I offer them? How do I, like, it just didn't make any sense to me. And so my job was to secure the funding, and that's what we did. I got some solid sponsors. We got a solid cash infusion to the team. Nothing like some of these bigger teams. Like at VOS, there's some numbers floating around for teams that we did better than, that are like 400 grand a year. Like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, what are
Say
you doing?
what? Who's
Yeah, like
doing
big,
400K a year?
like big budgets, man. And that's
I would
not
say
Legion,
I could see, well, Legion, I could see being upward in the millions
for sure.
for sure, like easy. And then like Project Echelon, I could see 500,000. Project Echelon, right? Yeah, 500,000. But there's not another team. Like, there's not another team that I would guess over 100K.
There is. So like, so we
We'll leave it
get
at
we get a
that.
budget. We get a budget. It's not over
Yeah.
100K.
Okay.
And Travis goes and he starts getting these guys that are like in between, like they're ready to move to a different team, but the party has to get started. Who wants to walk into the party and be the first one? So like
Yeah.
Travis did a great job of collecting this talent and putting it together. And then, he also did some work with sponsor product. So like got the guys like some wheels and some shoes and helmets and sunglasses. Like he did a good job, putting together this package for these guys that they were happy with.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, like, and I'll say this, like Valley of the Sun didn't go ideal, but it doesn't matter because I had a wonderful time with the guys.
I was about to
And so
say, yeah, team
if
cohesion's
you
everything.
if you go to a race and you win everything, but you hate the guys you're with, like, what's the point? And
Absolutely.
now this is something I'm trying to get Travis to work on, because he wants to be like Euro team manager. Like he
Yeah.
wants to be this, quick step type program. I don't want that. I want to have fun, man. I want to
Yeah.
have like the Instagram reel we did of Chris Tolley being like, Legion can ride a crit, but can they ride a wall? And he wall rides in the cycling kit with a cycling helmet. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want to show that it is, you can compete at the highest level, but regardless of your results, you had fun. And
Yeah.
so the guys we have, the bonds and the relationships and the chemistry off the bike, dude, is 10 out of 10. Like,
Sick.
amazing.
And
And
you guys,
so
but
we just need to work on
you
the,
still won GC though, didn't you?
riding side of things. And but that's easy to do, right? If our
Yeah.
personalities can come together, we can figure out the riding. We have the firepower. Chris Tolley, dude, he could have easily gotten on the podium in the final crit. There was a crash that kind of gapped him, but he's rolling. Our guy Evan, that did that reel, got sixth in the road race. Like, dude, we're gonna have opportunities. And VOS was, dude, the hitters were hitting, and
Yeah.
So
but actually, the hitters weren't hidden, in my opinion. I mean, I was a little shocked with the Legion come out at that top level. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, dude, hats off to fucking Project Echelon. Period. I don't give a fuck who you are. Like, to do what Project Echelon did this weekend. Because here's the thing: winning that time trial for Project Echelon, I thought I was done and in the bag with Zach Craig, but to win the fucking road race and then still kind of be up there in the crit, chapeau, my friend.
Yeah, really amazing. And the thing that floated around all weekend was, yeah, but it's early. but to me,
it's early to everyone, man.
Well, but it's a bike race.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the difference between a bike race in February and a bike race in July? They're bike races.
Absolutely.
You lined up, and you're going to try to do your best, right?
Look, if you go to a bike race, you're going to win. I don't care what time of year it is. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, so I think, I don't know what Legion's goal was. I definitely like, so in the Cat 2s, for us, when Travis, got dropped in the road race and lost the yellow, like that kind of put a damper on us a little bit. We were a little kicking ourselves in the butt and being sad. And then, in the crit, like, Preston broke his collarbone. Like, we got two guys broke their bikes. Like, the whole crit just went fucking sideways. In the road race, we had Steven, who got 11th in the time trial, in the ones, and was going to be top 10 in GC, but he crashed like with 1K to go in the final sprint. So like, the mood was down. But then I started thinking about the pressure that Legion has, the brand they've built, and then the fact that they have at least $2 million in payroll. And with $2 million in payroll, you didn't get top 5 in TT. You didn't win the road race. You didn't even podium the GC. Fuck, right? Like, so
yeah, it was
my weekend
was brutal.
My weekend's not so bad, right? And and that's no shade to them. Like, dude, they came to that crit and they showed
what they know how to do.
What they can do. And I mean, it was just like, the thing is, they can ride a crit to the level in which your chances of beating them are almost zero. Yeah. And that's who has ever done that in the cycling realm? Who, like, okay,
United
cycling
Healthcare,
I guess, but I mean,
I mean,
let's look at Peter Sagan, right? Peter Sagan, maybe one of the best. He might come home with 5 wins in the year and not be like really successful or whatever, right? Like that, like, you don't win that much in cycling.
Yeah, there's a few though. So, and I'm gonna go ahead and tip my hats to these guys. 2015, 2016, Daniel Holloway. Like, he had a 3-man team. There wasn't a single crit. He pretty much wasn't off the podium, and that was around the time. That was at the time when United Healthcare was still really huge, and they had the blue train, and that would be like somebody. That'd be like like me going out and ghost riding with like 2, 3 other guys, and like, when Crit Life kind of popped up and those kind of teams, and just rolling Legion. That would be like me showing up with a team called, we'll just do Crit Life. It'd be like me, Iman Lucas, and Brandon Fury do Crit Life, and then Iman Lucas and we're winning races. Like, that's what Dan Holloway did in like 2015, 2016. And then you had the Blue Train, obviously, where people wouldn't register. They were asked and told not to register for the race. They're in the race, they're fine, but they didn't want to see the start list to where people wouldn't register for the crits.
That's crazy.
Like that and there was a time also with the team management. So I had a guy who used to live here with team management. They used to tell him not to stack the podium, because when they were going to other sponsors and they had a stacked podium, it didn't look good. It didn't look like anybody showed up. And so back,
gnarly.
Isn't that insane to think about? And this was around the time, I think this was like 2014, 2015, because I was telling him, I was like, man, Legion stacked a podium. He's like, dude, well, back in the day when I was on United Healthcare, we used to get in trouble when we would stack the podium. And that's why we would lap the field so much. So we would just be sure at least one of us would get on, like we would win the race, and then we could dictate everything else. And that's insane.
Yeah. Well, it's eras, right? You enter an era, and Legion is definitely entering that era. I mean, it's what's insane is that, again, bike racing is so unpredictable, and there's so many variables, and yet somehow they always figure it out, or at least in a crit. And they are, I think they're changing the face of American cycling. They're making it, I think that it won't be long before it's like stadiums. Like there's crits in a stadium,
absolutely,
and it's a hybrid between a velodrome and crit racing.
With the Blazers coming on to scene, and like I know Justin I think he has some part with the Miami Blazers, but with the Miami Blazers coming into the fold, like it's only a matter of time before you have like the Colorado Tornadoes and the fucking Arizona, Hurricanes or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing shit out there, right? And taking over. But anyways, we're running short on time. I want you to be able to get to ride, but I got to ask you one more question. And this trickles into coffee and stuff. Dude, if you could have a cup of coffee with one individual, dead or alive, who would that person be? And then how would you take your coffee? And I want to put you on the spot with this, because I feel like if you ever had like a higher power come to you and ask you this question, it would be like a 10-second thing. Like you couldn't tell the dude to wait, or the chick, however you want to look at it. You know what I mean? You couldn't be like, hey, higher power, give me like a couple minutes.
Man, I've heard people ask that question before, but I don't know. I guess I've never really thought about it. And so there's a couple different. I know. So I guess like I would want to try to do research on who knows about aliens. Like I like
you just went whole fucking left field. I was expecting you to be like, yeah, Ricky Carmichael would be cool. I love motocross, and
dude. like what I want to know, like the Pentagon official, like what Pentagon official like worked on an alien spacecraft, right? Like it would be some name that no one's ever heard of, and it would just me and him, or me and her, whoever it is that knows some shit.
Yeah,
that's
they have that guy that was on. I'm not a huge Joe Rogan fan, but they had that guy on the Joe Rogan podcast that like essentially worked at Area 51 and wrote a whole book on it.
Yeah, it's hard to say though, because that guy has some inconsistencies in his stories, and
who I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah. But so Bob Lazar. And so if I could have coffee with any one person, I would want it to maybe be like, again, like
the person out of the system,
CIA agent, that you've never heard of, but that would have access to the information that I want to know, because I want to know some shit that no one else knows,
and no holds bar.
Yeah. And so then I would definitely take my coffee black, for sure. But, I guess if I had to put a name to it, I think Elon Musk is kind of cool, but then and maybe this is like cancel territory, but Joe Rogan has spoke to most of the interesting people on the planet. And
100%.
so, and there's so many things he's done off camera, right? Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Elon Musk, these guys that are geniuses. Sean Carroll, I mean, physicists, scientists, geniuses. I like that might be kind of neat if you chose him, because you could ask him about these guys and get a
Yeah.
little bit of insight. That would probably be an interesting conversation. But
No, absolutely. I think that would be wild. But anyways, Tyler, dude, you're the fucking man. I really appreciate your time. And guys, if you haven't already, please make sure you go check out all his social media. But you're probably here because of his social media and you want to get to know more about him. But anyways, I'll put links down in the description below, and links to the Impossible Route. I think what he's doing over there in that space is really fucking cool. So be sure to check it out.
We're headed in a week to go do episode 1 of season 2, West Texas, Big Bend area, 340 miles of unbelievable, nasty terrain, all in one go, nonstop.
Jesus Christ.
35 hours of gravel riding through a route that's never been done before.
And
Yay.
yeah, and so we're back to craziness. So be on the lookout for some of that content. But other than that, guys, we'll see you next time. Cheers.
All right. See you.